So next we come to a very small one-liner type of topic, that is the embryonic folds which are present during the embryonic period or the fetal period, and later on these folds are occupied by the lymphatic tissue. So there are two embryonic folds which are extending backwards from the palatoglossal arch, and at the birth they are replaced by the lymphatic tissue. The one which is extending from the upper part of the palatoglossal arch, that is the plica semilunaris, and similar fold which is extending from the lower part of the palatoglossal arch, that is called as plica triangularis. So these are the two one-liners which can be asked in the exam. Now coming to a very important part, that is the blood supply of the tonsil. There are so many branches, there are so many arteries which is supplying the tonsil. So before going to those individual arteries, let us revise the names of the major arteries which are present near the tonsils. First, if you remember, I think you remember this, which is this artery? This is the common carotid artery, which divides into internal carotid and the external carotid artery. Then if you remember the branches of the external carotid artery, then the first branch which is not shown here, that is the superior thyroid. After that we have the ascending pharyngeal artery which is arising at the division of the internal carotid and the common external carotid. Then we have got one branch which is running, it is a tortuous in nature and running towards the tongue, that is the lingual artery. The artery which is curving around the base of the mandible, passing through the submandibular salivary gland, and which is one of the major supply to the tonsil, that is the facial artery. And the terminal part at the divisions of the external carotid artery, that is the superficial temporal, and this one is the maxillary artery. So these are the major arteries which is surrounding or which are present near the tonsils, and these all branches, mainly the external carotid, the ascending pharyngeal, maxillary, and all these facial and the lingual arteries, they will be supplying the tonsil. So what is the blood supply? The chief principal blood supply of the tonsil is by the tonsillar branch of the facial artery, this one. This is the facial artery as shown in the previous diagram. So this is the chief blood supply of the tonsil, that is the tonsillar branch of facial artery. Then we come to the next one, another branch which is going upwards from the facial artery, that is the ascending palatine artery, which also gives branch to the tonsil. Then the lingual artery gives two branches, we can say they are called as the dorsal lingual branches, and they also supply the tonsil from the we can say inferior aspect. The ascending pharyngeal artery, which is a branch from the junction bifurcation of the internal and the external carotid, that also gives a branch to the tonsil. And lastly, the descending palatine artery, which is a branch from the maxillary artery, it also supplies the palatine tonsil. So palatine tonsil has got 5 arteries supplying it, but the major artery which is supplying it is the tonsillar branch of the facial artery. In some of the books they have referred these branches divided the branches into superior tonsillar branch, the ascending tonsillar branch, the inferior tonsillar branch, and the posterior tonsillar branches. But we are sticking to the standard textbooks which you are commonly reading, so they are named, no need to remember them as the superior, inferior, posterior and ascending, only the simplified form, that is the 5 branches of the different arteries. Venous drainage, there can be one or more veins which may be draining the tonsil. They will be piercing the superior constrictor muscle, and at the end they will join either the palatine, pharyngeal or the facial veins, or they can go into the pharyngeal plexus directly. Coming to the lymphatic drainage, again they drain after piercing the superior constrictor muscle and the fascia there, they will drain into the deep cervical lymph nodes, and more specifically they will be draining into the jugulodigastric node, which is also called as the tonsillar lymph node. So one liner, what is tonsillar lymph node? It is a jugulodigastric node which is a part of the deep cervical lymph nodes. Now supply, and the tonsillar lymph node can be palpated behind the angle of mandible. Many of times when we have sore throat, after some time or in children you may commonly find a swelling behind the angle of mandible, right? So those swellings are nothing but the swellings of the tonsillar lymph node, where there can be a subclinical infection which might not have appeared, but it has been cured by its own. Then in children and even in adults, we commonly find a lymph node like swelling, or you can say a small swelling behind the angle of mandible, and that is nothing but the tonsillar lymph node which has got swelled. The nerve supply is by the glossopharyngeal nerve and the lesser palatine nerves. Coming to the applied anatomy of the tonsil, the first and the very common one is the acute tonsillitis. So it is the acute inflammation or acute infection of the tonsil that is called as acute tonsillitis. Sometimes there can be a condition called as the acute follicular tonsillitis. That means, as I said, that there are many crypts, and out of which one crypt is very deep, that is the crypta magna. So that crypta magna gets many of time gets impacted by the food particles or some other particles, and if it is not cleared up in time, it can lead to infection of the tonsil. So that condition is called as acute follicular tonsillitis. Third one, very important one, if the infection of the tonsil is not treated in time, then it can lead to formation of pus, and that pus can go onto the lateral aspect as there is a space there. The peritonsillar space is available there. So the peritonsillar space, there can be a formation of abscess, and that condition is called as quinsy. There can be referred pain. Commonly if there is infection of the tonsil, the pain gets radiated towards the ear because it is near to the auditory tube, and the nerve supply to the auditory tube and the pharynx and all those regions of the pharynx is common by the glossopharyngeal and the vagus nerve. So that pain can get referred to the ear. Lastly, if there is recurrent tonsillar infection or there is formation of the peritonsillar abscess, there may be a need to remove the tonsils in the children. So in that condition is called as tonsillectomy. It can be easily removed because there is a tonsillar space available, peritonsillar space available on the sides, so it can be very easily removed. But as I have shown in the diagram, in the peritonsillar space there is presence of a peritonsillar vein. So that should be very carefully be taken. Otherwise, if there is a bleeding from it, it will be very difficult to control. So while removing the tonsil, we should take care of the peritonsillar vein. And if you remember in the you can say if you remember from the abdomen, in the uterus, you might have come across that after postpartum doing any work on the uterine cavity, the hemorrhage needs to be checked by removal of the clot there. Otherwise, clotting is good, but there are two sites in the body where clotting should be removed after the operation is over to prevent further bleeding. One is the uterus, and second here, that is in the tonsil. That is, bleeding after the tonsillectomy should be checked by removal of the clot. Otherwise, clot is good, but only at these two places we need to remove the clot to prevent any further post-operative bleeding. So that is about the applied anatomy. All the applied anatomies are very much important. More commonly, the quinsy and the tonsillectomy can also be asked in the one-liners. So that is acute tonsillitis, acute follicular tonsillitis, quinsy, referred pain, tonsillectomy, and very much important one-liner, the bleeding after the tonsillectomy should be checked by removal of the clot. Now we come to a very small topic, that is the Waldeyr's ring. Now if you remember this previous diagram, we have come across various tonsils. This was the pharyngeal tonsil, this is in the posterior pharyngeal wall. On the lateral pharyngeal wall, in the nasopharynx, we have got the tubal tonsils. In this oropharyngeal part, we have got in the lateral wall, we have the palatine tonsil. I had mentioned that in the dorsum of the tongue, in the posterior 1/3 part or the posterior most part of the tongue, we have got the lingual tonsils. So why so many tonsils are there? So they are present there to prevent the entry of microorganisms through the air or through the food, and preventing the entry of those microorganisms into the air pipe or the food pipe. So if we see it from front, then we will find that they basically form a ring. This is the midline. So in the posterior nasal wall, nasopharyngeal wall, we have got the nasopharyngeal tonsil. Then on the lateral wall of the nasopharynx, we have got the tubal tonsil on both the sides. This will be on the midline. These are on both the sides. Similarly, in the oropharyngeal region, we have got the palatine tonsils on each side, and in the midline on the dorsum of the tongue on the posteriormost part, we have got the lingual tonsils. So these tonsils are forming a circular ring near the oropharynx, around the oropharynx and the nasopharynx, to prevent the entry of food and the to prevent the entry of microorganisms through food and the air. So which are they? The nasopharyngeal tonsils, tubal tonsils, palatine tonsil and the lingual tonsil. So just to summarize, today we have discussed about the palatine tonsil and the Walder's ring, and about the very important questions which can be asked from these topics are the tonsillar fossa, tonsillar bed, tonsillectomy, any of the applied anatomy or applied anatomy as a short note, and the components of the